It's the Horror Guys. I'm Kevin,
I'm Brian.
and we're here to talk about some horror movies.
122 episodes and counting.
Hot diggity.
Yeah.
What do we have for the nice people today?
Well, we've got 4 books.
We do?
We got actually 6 books.
We have more than 2 books.
Yeah, we do. We got, well, the more I look, the more I count. I see 7 now.
All right.
Tales to Make You Shiver, Volume 1 and 2. Short fiction by Kevin and Brian. A sextet of strange stagings. 6 surprising scripts. That really just doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
It's easy for you to say.
By Kevin L. Knight. And 4 of them from Brian Schell. The Horror Guy's Guide to Universal Studios Shock Theater. The Horror Guy's Guide to Universal Studios Son of Shock. The Horror Guy's Guide to Hammer Horror Films. And the Horror Guy's Guide to The Silent Age of Horror. All of these are available wherever you buy paperbacks or ebooks, especially Amazon. Amazon is easy. But if you want to support the show, pick up some books. Okay, so what do we got this week?
Well, we got a horror movie called Tormented from 2013.
No, just Torment.
Torment. I keep calling it the wrong title. Yes, Torment, 2013.
Uh-huh.
The Re-Animator from 1985. Bride of Re-Animator.
Ooh.
And a sci-fi horror, Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, that's got Mr. Pink Floyd in it, doesn't it?
And a short called Snore.
I'm sure we'll get a good night's sleep with that one.
You betcha.
All right, well, here we go.
Well, we got Torment from 2013, directed by Jordan Barker, written by Michael Foster and Thomas Pound, stars Catherine Isabel, Robin Dunn, and Peter da Cunha. I think that's pronounced right. Runtime, 1 hour and 22 minutes, and there's a link to the Amazon where you can purchase this fine movie.
1 hour and 22 minutes?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, it's
I'm going to comment on that when we're done.
Well, and it's a simple story. There's a beautiful young couple that try to relocate with their son, and there's a murderous family that targets them.
All right.
Yeah. In its core essence, it's nothing new that we haven't seen before. But it was good, It opens with a beautiful farmhouse and idyllic looking, and a woman is there, and everything seems fine, but the dog is really upset about something. So she goes outside, doesn't see anything. The dog calms down, so she goes back in. They have dinner. The dad's kind of a jerk, and somebody comes in and kills all the family. Credits roll.
That's not the whole movie?
That's not the whole movie.
That's the pre-credit
This
sequence.
is just the pre-credit.
Okay.
Yes. Well, then we go to the family. The main people are looking at a not the same house, but
The next door house.
Same kind of setting. Yeah,
I think it's right next door.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area. Yeah, so it's a couple with a kid, and they got family drama. She's a stepmom, and the kid isn't quite accepting of her yet. So there's some family drama, and you get to know these people. And Brian said at this point, there's too few characters. They can't kill off anybody, which was kind of true.
Yeah, it was.
It's like, okay, there's only 3 of them.
You can't kill the little kid.
They wouldn't kill a little kid.
You can't kill the stepmother, who's the sympathetic character.
Yeah, and you can't kill the dad.
Maybe you could kill the dad,
maybe.
But it didn't seem right either.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure because they can be brutal and unpredictable in this kind of movies. I mean, this is kind of like the strangers kind of genre.
It's the rednecks in the woods trope.
Well, and there's no reason. It's just because these people are crazy and like to kill. And so there's no reason behind it or no, motive or really. Well, the place goes on, and clearly something is watching them. There's noises, and they keep getting woken up at night, and someone's in the house. No, someone's not in the house. Liam is gone, the kid. And they go out looking and calling and cruising the yard. Sarah steps down hard on a nail, which isn't always seen. Oh, they really did that well. Yeah.
Nail stepping scenes are always good.
Yeah. Well, the police car arrives, and they think, they've come to help.
We're safe now.
Yeah, they've come to help, find the kid. And, it's getting, worse and worse. Where clearly they're being, tormented, teased. Someone's messing with them. Well, they're saved, except the policeman has been booby-trapped, and the car explodes into a glorious fireball.
Well, no help from them.
They realize that, the police are not going to help. Yeah. Well, they split up the party, the two of them. I mean, it's not a big party, it's just
two of them.
It's the couple, yeah. So Sarah barricades in the house, and Corey runs for help, and this family, they're wearing giant mouse suit. The one of them is, and
they're stuffed animals
They're
with the heads cut off and emptied out.
Yeah, giant stuffed
They
animal
look kind of
heads.
cool.
Yeah,
kind of neat.
Yeah, they were very helpful. Yeah,
Helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. Yeah. Well, they made the movie creepier.
Definitely.
And made them seem kind of inhuman.
Kind of a Purge vibe on the family.
Yeah. But at its core, there's fighting back and forth, and much attacking and counterattacking, and it goes on for a long time, and it's good action, gory, and Corey gets wounded, she gets wounded, they both fight back, and I'm not going to really go into step by step detail because it's not really necessary. Sarah runs through the woods and sets off a flare to try to call for help, and sure enough, Corey is killed. The dad. Yeah. Spoiler.
If anybody was going to die, you knew it had to be him because of the math.
Yeah.
You can't spoil this spoiled, rotten little bastard child who you wanted to have die, but no, the dad gets it.
Yeah. And then maybe Corey isn't as dead as you think at first, but yeah. So some of the family that is attacking also gets killed. So there's some deaths, and Sarah gets a shotgun and she knows how to use it. And there's a little bit of twist at the end with the family of who's really the family and who's in on it, and yeah. But that's kind of the summary. I mean, I'm not without going step by step. Mm-hmm. Commentary?
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You can read my commentary that I wrote.
I can read your commentary. Okay, this is what Kevin said. This is the genre of horror where the monsters are all humans. There's no magic, no advanced technology, nothing supernatural. In a way, that makes it more frightening, because this could be real. At its core, it's nothing that hasn't been done already. A masked group is tormenting and killing innocent people. The people fight back. Apparently, the masked group is just doing this because they can and they like it. The innocent people, and we, the audience, struggle to come to grips with what they did to deserve this. In this one, their struggle is a little more relatable. I found myself caring about this family and rooting for them. The gore is realistic. The peril recreations are the best. There is a sense of dread and suspense and tension. All in all, I give this one a solid thumbs up.
There you go.
All right. Now, Brian's commentary
is going to be harsher.
This sucks. Avoid at all costs.
Wow. Okay, we have a disagreement on this.
The parents were fine. The first 5 minutes, you see what a spoiled little bastard that kid is, and you want him to die.
I didn't think the kid was that bad in this
kid went
one.
missing, and I'm like, cool. The happy married couple can get along just fine on their own now. Yeah, the kid's mother died, which of course is traumatic, but he is such a jerk to the stepmother. And of course, the stepfather won't tell him to do anything. He won't make him play nice or cooperate.
He's not the stepfather, real father.
The real father, yeah. I was eager for the kid to die.
Okay. I liked it.
And that's the view you're supposed to have in these movies. And of course, the rednecks in the woods, the family. Why were they doing this? Well, because they were evil.
Reasons.
They were evil and mean, and they wanted to mayhem, and no reason at all. Were they Satanists? No. Were they sacrificing to the old gods for some beneficial reason? No. Were they literally psychopathic serial killers like Jason or Freddy? Or no, they were just mean. They were bad people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes it horrifying.
All right.
That's horror for you. Yeah.
I didn't like it. I give it a 2. I give it a 2 of 10.
Ooh, I give it a solid 8. 7.
Okay.
Okay, 7.5. 7, 8, somewhere around there.
Torment, 2013. What was it, hour and 22 minutes? Seemed like 2 hours.
Okay, we got one thumbs up and one thumbs down. You'll have to watch it for yourself to decide.
Yeah. Or don't.
And then on to a film that we can agree on a little more.
I think we probably do. Yeah, Re-Animator from 1985. Directed by Stuart Gordon. Written by Dennis Paoli and H.P. Lovecraft. Stars Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott, Barbara Crampton. Hour and 44 minutes. What you think?
I loved it.
This is one of my top movies. I like this one.
It's right up there. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Well, and it's horrifying and horrible and yet hilarious.
Very, very funny.
Oh, yeah. Man, this is, one of the funniest horror movies.
I mean, it's got all the real horror stuff. It's got the mad scientist. It's got zombies.
Gore,
it's got an evil villain.
Yeah, gallons of blood. And,
But it's extremely funny.
It's very funny.
Yes. Yeah. If you haven't seen Re-Animator, stop the podcast right now. Go watch Re-Animator.
And this was Jeffrey Combs' first full-length movie. First major role. Yeah. Uh-huh. And boy, does he make that role. You can see why he went on to do lots of things.
He's been doing mad scientists and psychos and, murderers and villains ever since.
Yeah, it was very good.
And tons of Star Trek.
Yes, yeah.
He hadn't been in Discovery yet, has he? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
It's been in like everything else.
Yeah.
All right, well, the nurse pounds on the door. Dr. Gruber! There's a crashing inside, so the police break in. Herbert West is standing over Gruber, who is having some really dramatic reaction to something he injected. You killed him, the nurse accuses, and he responds indignantly. No, I did not. I gave him life. Credits roll.
Okay.
I think the credits are even entertaining, very colorful.
Yeah, those were neat.
The music is good.
Everything about it is just thumbs up, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if this was low budget or high budget at the time, but it all looks great.
Yeah, it does.
So we return after the credits to Miskatonic University in Arkham, Massachusetts, where medical student Dan Kane works on a dying man. The patient dies, and Kane is told to wheel him to the morgue. He meets Dean Halsey and new student Herbert West, as well as Dr. Hill, who is doing an autopsy. West isn't impressed with Hill. Your work on brain death is outdated, which is something every scientist wants to hear.
Oh, yeah. When the new student comes, he wants to be criticized by the student coming in.
Well, Dan is dating Dean Halsey's daughter, Megan. Well, West comes to Dan's place, and he wants to be the new roommate. At Dr. Hill's class, he talks about people wanting to live after death, but that's just impossible, we all know. West annoyingly breaks pencils throughout the lecture. Megan thinks Herbert is weird, but Dan sticks up for him. When she finds her dead cat in the refrigerator, she likes him even less.
Yeah, she's not amused by that at all.
He claims to have found the cat dead already. I suspect he was lying.
Mm-hmm.
That night, Dan hears the cat howling. But the cat's dead, right? No, the cat's attacking Herbert in the basement.
Not as dead as we were led to believe.
That is one unhappy cat.
Well, that's the thing with this. They come back reanimated, but they don't come back right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They chase it all around with a baseball bat and croquet mallet until Dan finally kills it a second time. Herbert explains that his reagent will wake up the freshly dead. When Dan doesn't believe him, Herbert reanimates the cat a second time. Megan catches them. The dean then says he's going to expel West and cut off Dan's student loan.
No.
Not that. Dan sneaks Herbert into the morgue. All we need tonight is simple evidence of a conscious reaction, West explains. They just want to see the thing sit up or something. Well, the dean comes looking for Dan, and he heads to the morgue after Dan and Herbert. Herbert injects his serum into the corpse, and the man gets up and, hey, he shows some signs as he beats Dean Halsey to death. Yep, he can move all right.
Yeah, it's subtle.
The trick is getting him to stop. West uses a medical instrument to drill a hole through the reanimated man. He wasn't fresh enough, laments West. Where would they find a fresher body? As they both turn their heads and look at Halsey laying on the floor. They inject him, and he soon gets up, But he's not quite the man he used to be, so they lock him in a padded cell.
At least he's closer to,
He's better than the other guy,
slightly better. Yes. Yeah.
Dr. Hill wants to operate on Halsey, and he starts hitting on Megan as well. There's some kind of attraction there. Soon, Hill has Halsey lobotomized for easier control. Hill knows more than he lets on, and soon confronts West in his lab. Hill wants West's formula. Of course he does.
Mm-hmm.
When Hill is distracted, West whacks him with a shovel and chops his head off. Oops. West wonders, could he just wake up the head? What about the headless body? Yes, both. Except Hill and his body soon escape. When West wakes up, all his science stuff is missing. Hill goes to his lab and injects himself with more serum, and then goes back to the morgue to work. Meanwhile, Halsey attacks Dan and Megan and makes off with Megan. Halsey brings Megan to Headless Hill in the morgue and undresses her, much to Hill's satisfaction. We then get one of the weirdest sex scenes ever.
Which led to the actor's divorce, supposedly, according
I'd
to
love
the
to know
trivia.
that story.
Yeah. Whether there was really something going on, or his wife was just really that intolerant of him playing that role.
Well, it's nothing but a head being held by a body, and her naked body is just laying there. She's, I don't know, was she unconscious or just tied down?
Tied down at that point, yeah.
So he kisses her here and there, and then the head goes down between her legs, doesn't make contact.
Comes close.
But he's really close.
Yeah, the implication
as he
is
leers
there
and
that
talks
he's ready
and
to...
monologues.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really any sex.
It's not that
It's not like he
graphic
was
as far
ever
as
naked or
sex.
anything.
Yeah,
it's just his head.
She's completely nude.
Yeah.
But, the implication is he's going to literally give her head.
It's about all he can give her.
Yeah.
But and then shortly afterwards, they broke up and his wife divorced him.
Well,
supposedly due to this.
And supposedly his wife walked out of the showing even.
Oh, yeah.
Yelling, "How could you?" or something like that.
It's called acting.
I don't know what the full story was there, but yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's very uncomfortable to do a naked sex scene in bed with somebody in a normal movie with the cameras.
Yeah.
You really are naked and all that. But this is like the least close to there's nothing going on here, really, in this one.
Yeah,
it's all implied.
Weird and twisted, but yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, West distracts Hill while Dan gets Megan out of there. Suddenly, all the bodies in the morgue get up under Hill's control. Things start getting...
Weirder,
yes. Until Halsey revolts and attacks Hill. West decides to test his overdose theory on Hill. Things get a little weird at this point, but Megan is killed at the end of the battle.
So you need more synonyms for weird when you're talking about this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So Megan is dead. Dan, of course, realizes that this isn't as big a deal as it used to be, and injects her with West's serum. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was really surprised how well this one holds up.
Mm-hmm. It did.
It's done in 1985. That's like 36 years ago. And it still holds up really well.
Yeah.
It's nearly a perfect horror movie. It's got great gore, a good story and characters, and a lot of humor. Just watching Headless Hill walk around with his head in a pan is enough to make this a classic on its own. Jeffrey Combs went on to become an icon of horror after this film, and it was, of course, completely deserved. Only he could make the line, "Who's gonna believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow," work out. And this was trivia. This was the first time glow stick liquid was ever used in a film.
That's what the Re-Animator juice is.
They broke open the glow sticks and used glowing... It wasn't a special effect. It really was glowing green goo.
I mean, it works. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Then we have Bride of Re-Animator from 5 years later, 1990. Directed by Brian Yuzna. Written by Rick Fry and Woody Keith. Stars Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott, and Claude Earl Jones. Hour and 36 minutes. What'd you think of this one?
I liked it a lot, too.
Not as much as the first one, because it's not really got that much more going on. But it's a very good sequel.
Yeah,
It
it is.
definitely follows on really well.
Yeah, big thumbs up.
Well, we start out with Dr. Hill's disembodied head, now vowing revenge and laughing maniacally. He's doing his little villain monologue. We start in Peru, 8 months later, after the Miskatonic Massacre, as the newspapers called it, where Dan and West are finishing their tour as volunteer medics in a civil war.
And he's still at it.
Oh,
Still
yeah,
trying to
still
work his
doing it.
formula.
Their patient dies, but West doesn't want to waste an opportunity, so he injects him with the glowing green goo. Enemy soldiers are closing in on their camp, but West wants to give a speech about not just reanimating the dead, but creating new life. There's a gunfight, but Dan gets stabbed. "Let's go home," says West. Credits roll. And Dan gets stabbed before the pre-credits. You'd expect him to die and get
That's
reanimated.
kind of what I was expecting.
And no, that just doesn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of dumb.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Why stab him if you're not going to use it? He's better in the next scene.
Because drama.
Eh.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, credits roll. Then back at Miskatonic Hospital in Arkham, Massachusetts. Everything H.P. Lovecraft is Miskatonic University and
Arkham.
Yes. Herbert and Dan are back seeing patients again. Police Lieutenant Chapham is still investigating the massacre from a few months back, and he's got Dr. Hill's head in a bag. He said it showed up in a carnival sideshow. What?
What?
Get a job in a sideshow?
Get a job in a sideshow? He did.
Dr. Graves explains that none of the bodies from that night have shown any sign of decay. Of course, we know they're not quite dead.
Because injection.
Dr. Graves shows Chapham a ballet dancer who cut off her feet in suicide. Her feet are missing. Who'd want to steal body parts? Graves asks.
A lot of body parts missing.
Because, if you're a ballet dancer and you want to commit suicide, you'd die by cutting your feet off?
Well, she couldn't make it as a ballet dancer. She was angry at her feet, I think, because they failed her.
Yeah.
I can only theorize, but no, she was a failed ballet dancer. She didn't make it, whatever she was trying to do, and that's why she killed herself. And
she was murdered and had her feet cut off because somebody wanted them.
That's more likely.
That's much more likely.
That is more likely.
So who would want to steal body parts? Graves asks.
And who would want to kill somebody for the body parts?
We then cut to West, skulking around the morgue. He finds a bag labeled Megan Halsey and pockets her heart. He also finds Hill's head, which has been returned. They go home to see that West has tunneled from the basement into the local cemetery. Their back room just goes into a crypt for some reason. West has a gas that makes it look like a heart attack and leaves no trace. He tests it on an iguana. He extracts something from the iguana and makes more of his reanimation formula. He ties together 5 fingers and an eye and then gives it life.
And that's just awesome.
The little guy crawls away when they aren't looking. It's just fingers and an eye. It's kind of like a weird spider. Dan wants out, but Herbert shows him Megan's heart. Could they? Dan decides to stay and help. West wants to create a whole new person, starting with Megan's heart.
The bride of Re-Animator.
Yeah. Lieutenant Chapham comes to the door, and they have to steer him away from the little finger creature running all over the house. He's there to ask about the missing body parts. Dr. Graves has a bottle of serum left over from the massacre, and he experiments using it on a dead bat. It attacks him, and in retaliation he cuts off its wings. Next, he injects Dr. Hill's dead head. And the two have a long conversation, and Hill insists that Graves help him with unfinished business. Dan meets Francesca, an old girlfriend. So does Chapham, who asks many questions about how she met Dan in Peru. Francesca runs over for dinner and brings her little dog with her. West connects an arm and a leg for hilarious effect. Chapham forces his way inside and goes down to their lab to look around. Apparently, Chapham killed his wife, and then West brought her back. Oh.
And she's not right either.
She's not right either, no. West uses his gas on Chapham. Well, they reanimate Chapham just to get him back on the street, and that goes badly for everyone, especially Francesca's dog. Dan's long-term patient dies the next day, and West sees an opportunity to get their last missing piece, a perfect head. Meanwhile, back in Dr. Graves' lab, Hill wants to see West, but Graves isn't cooperating. Graves wraps the head in a towel and throws it in the trash can. Hill then telepathically calls Chapham to assist him. I guess these guys are all connected. They make Graves graft big bat wings onto Hill's head. What? A head with wings?
So he can fly around.
Back at the lab, West and Dan connect all the pieces and
Easy for you to say.
yeah. They connect all the pieces and complete their creation. They inject it with the formula. There's a buzz at the door. Someone has left a box. West takes it inside and opens it, and under all the packing peanuts is Dr. Hill, who
His
can now
flying
fly. The lunatics from the hospital start converging outside the house.
It's macabre and hilarious.
Yes. Meanwhile, the creature in the basement wakes up, and she definitely has a Bride of Frankenstein type of vibe going on. Soon our heroes are locked in the basement lab with zombies beating down the door. Francesca and the jealous creature fight. Finally, in frustration, the creature pulls out her own heart and hands it to Dan. She then falls to pieces.
Tissue rejection.
Yeah, very, very.
She goes full thing.
Full thing. Dr. Hill, the maniac zombies, and the leftover experimental things from the crypt all come in at the same time and pretty much attack everyone.
Pandemonium.
Then the roof collapses conveniently and buries everyone. We see Dan and Francesca dig their way out. I'm sure Herbert West is dead.
Yep, never to be
We
seen
do
again.
see Dr. Hill is buried alive down there. His little head and wings is like under the rocks, and he's like, I can't get out.
Yep.
All right, well, the organs and the body parts are really well done here. I think they use lots of meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's not really a lot new here, but it's a good logical extension of what came before. This one has more gore and more humor than the original, but a lot less of a story. The creature effects, especially at the very end, were great, and watching Hill fly around on bat wings was so over the top to be ridiculous, but in a good way.
Yep. Yeah, it was. I liked it.
I liked it too. Mm-hmm. Did we watch a short film this week?
We did. We saw one called Snore, which was directed by Luther Bogle-Jones, written by Gabriel Wright and Luther Bogle-Jones. Stars Sarah Williams, Nick Holliday, and Andrew Calverley. Although you won't recognize any of them in this because why? It's a puppets horror show.
I'm like, oh man, a puppet show?
The main puppeteer says by Gary Robson.
Yeah.
But clearly, and there's actually the post-credit scene shows some of the work being done and design. Yeah. It probably took a lot of crew, a lot of helpers. I imagine.
Sure it did.
Yeah. Well, Snore is a award-winning splat stick puppet film. As well as how the description reads. Hard-nosed businesswoman Karen has gone bankrupt yet again, forcing her and Callum, her boy toy lover, to stay in a grody halfway house. A strange noise catches their attention in the middle of the night, leading them into a battle for survival with the JIP. The JIP is what they call it.
The JIP. Okay, I don't know.
We're reading their description.
Yeah.
Who will survive, and most importantly, what will be left of Callum's designer man bag?
Okay, so there's this couple. They're an annoying couple that go to. I don't know. I thought it was like the most disgusting bed and breakfast ever.
Yeah,
blood stains on the sheets and so forth.
Yeah, very seedy place.
And
I think
she's
it's a
obviously
seedy hotel.
she's kind of a bossy, naggy old woman, crooked type, and he's like the yes ma'am kind of guy. They go to there and they spend the night, and they hear something rustling around, and there's something under the bed. So they both look under the bed, and things get worse from there.
Yes, they do.
And if a horror puppet show sounds like the stupidest thing ever, it's not.
Reading Brian's
actually
words
works
here,
really well.
He says this is absolutely super. Yes, and
Yes.
I agree. Yeah, I was skeptical going into it. I always am when it's not live action. But yeah, this was really good. And yeah, Luther does some good work. We saw,
He does.
What was his Halloween?
Goodbye Halloween.
Goodbye Halloween. That was another one we really liked.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some other shorts out there that we should check out. But yeah, this one was a winner.
Well, we talked a couple of months ago about the Trilogy of Terror, Karen Black.
This had some of that vibe.
Where the little doll runs around with the knife and chasing her and stabbing her in the foot and all that. And this is kind of a role reversal on that one.
A little bit, yeah.
You got the little live-action guy chasing puppets around. I don't know if that was intentional from their point of view, but it kind of stands out.
Yeah, really well done.
Yeah, very. All right, and then, like I said, way back in, I think, episode 100 or something, we talked about our favorite movies of all time. Alien and The Thing and Phantasm.
And then we talked about our favorite movies, some of ours that aren't too mainstream.
Yeah, not on everybody's top 10 list. And one of my all-time favorites that most people aren't that big on was Re-Animator. And one that Kevin likes a whole lot that most people don't talk about.
Inexplicably, The Dark Side of the Moon from 1990 is directed by D.J. Webster. Writers Carrie W. Hayes and Chad Hayes. Stars Robert Sampson, Will Bledsoe, Joe Turkel. Runtime an hour and a half. Well, hour and 27.
And totally coincidentally, Robert Sampson was Dean Halsey in Bride of Re-Animator.
Yep. So
he's kind of the missing link here between the two.
And Joe Turkel, you may know him as Tyrell from the original Blade Runner movie. He actually, this was his last movie. I mean, he's still alive. He's in his 90s. He officially retired from acting in 1998. Hasn't done anything at all since then. This was his last movie, but he has 142 acting credits. He just did tons of stuff in his younger days, and I didn't know that. I only, the first time I remember seeing him was in Blade Runner. And I thought, oh, he's a new guy. No,
that was toward the end of the career.
Yeah.
And you're right, I don't recognize him from anything prior to that either.
Lots of TV shows, lots of classic TV, single episodes and a few episodes, and lots of movies, but yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so.
In the far-flung future of 2022.
2022.
This movie is set in 2022, yes. The exposition on the screen says that the maintenance ship Space Corps 1 is on a refab mission to repair a nuclear-armed satellite far above the Earth. The mission is considered dangerous, very dangerous.
So in 2022, we're going to have spaceships out there doing maintenance on each other.
Yep, and nuclear-armed satellites flying around between Earth and the Moon.
Well, we might have that. Who knows?
Well, yeah. Well, on the bridge, we're quickly introduced to the captain, Flynn Harding, and co-pilot Giles Stewart, who are having trouble finding the satellite, and they start having technical problems with the controls, things shorting out. And they call Paxton, who is Tyrell. Turkel. Oh, yes. Did I say that wrong? Yeah. The science officer to get a control override through Leslie, the onboard AI. And the AI has a actress playing a humanoid robot interface.
They took a lot of elements from Alien and put into this. You know when Commander Dallas goes in and he sits down, he talks to Mother in Alien. He sits down in his computer, this big room full of stuff, and he has a special room full of it.
Only she's sitting in a chair across from him.
Yeah, this is it's a similar kind of room, but instead of just talking to the computer, she looks like a real woman in this skimpy leather outfit. And you got to wonder what the logic was behind somebody actually designing this computer system.
And it takes a lot of space on the ship.
It's a big room, yeah. I mean, what were they thinking?
I don't know. Yeah, it gives them more of a feeling of connection with the ship. I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
Impractical.
Well, Leslie says there's no problem detected, and Paxton heads out to the bridge, and his lights are shorting out, and sparks flying. And, yeah, something's wrong. Yeah. Well, the chief engineer Jennings pops in and says everything is failing, including their backup power, and they've got less than 24 hours of air and heat. And in comes Alex McKinney, operations officer, who gets filled in, and Dr. Steiner happens to be walking by, who gets filled in on the situation. So we get to know all the characters. And They are drifting toward Centris B40, the dark side of the moon.
Oh no, not the dark side of the moon.
Yeah. Well, they get to work trying to figure out what's going wrong. The ship's getting cold. Things aren't working for unexplained reasons, and the impact to the moon is now 15 hours, and everything should be working. Well, time for a hot tea break, served up by Alex, and Paxton has a moment with her where he's clearly infatuated, and she yanks her hand away. Doc gets, and this is Chekhov's, the doctor gets served cream in his tea accidentally and spits it out because he's violently allergic, and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird
Remember
scene.
that. Yeah.
Why did they put that in there? Well, there's a reason.
There's a reason, yeah. Alex spots something out the window heading their way. It's a space shuttle. And it's clearly under power. It's doing its little maneuvers and pulls up alongside. But it doesn't respond. And so they go on board.
And they mentioned the space shuttle has been missing for 30 years.
Missing for 30 years, yeah.
2022, so it went missing back in 1992.
Back in the 90s, yeah. And, yeah, here it is out in space, yeah. Well, the captain and co-pilot go inside, and it's very wet, very warm. There's a lot of damage, and water damage. Everything is wet. And one thing that I noticed and have noticed all the multiple times I've seen this, how huge this space shuttle is inside.
At one point, do they go to like the third level of the space shuttle?
Yeah, they talk about the third level, and yeah.
The space shuttle has a cockpit and a cargo bay.
We've both been inside a full-size mock-up at a museum of the space shuttle, and it's not that big inside.
It's not full of rooms where you're going to get lost.
Yeah. Well, they hook up, do an umbilical to get some air from the shuttle to extend their time, but they're still drifting. They find the crew souvenirs and mementos are still there and everything, but no crew. And they're looking, and they're in the cargo bay, and it's like, Alex is like, there's some strange readings, and the instruments are going haywire, and are you sure there's nothing around you? And they're looking around, no, nothing, and then they look up, and plop.
Always look up.
Yeah, plop, oh, there's one of the missing crew, yeah, dead, apparently, except the doc can't figure out why he's dead, because he seems normal, except for this triangle-shaped hole in his chest.
With all his organs exposed. What would have possibly killed him, do you wonder?
Yeah, and yet there doesn't seem to be anything else wrong with him, yeah, and there's no blood. So the doc's kind of stumped.
Yeah.
Well, Giles goes to talk to Leslie and tries to get some answers about the shuttle and so forth. And there's a couple different scenes with Giles talking to Leslie and getting more information from her. Well, it turns out the shuttle was lost in 1992, splashed down in the Bermuda Triangle. 2 of the dead crew were recovered. The third body was never recovered. And so here's the shuttle back up in space with the dead astronaut on board. Like, how did this happen? We don't know.
And it's full of, like, seawater and
it's full of
seaweed.
seawater and seaweed. And, yeah. Well, Gaudier, the dead astronaut, gets up and goes after Alex. And he talks in a demon-sounding voice, saying he has many names and he has come to take what is his. And he gets Alex, apparently. And yet Giles finally gets to the sick bay because he's been locked out and, calls everybody to the sick bay, run. Well, they go there and Gaudier's just laying in bed dead. Alex is on the floor unconscious. And they think, Giles is crazy. Like, clearly the guy's dead. Yeah. Well, the ship starts mostly working again, but they're still drifting toward the moon. And they start figuring out the Bermuda Triangle theory. Alex starts going into a spasm. Doctor can't figure out why. Harding decides, the captain, he's going to go to the shuttle to try to get to some relay circuits that they need for their ship. Well, he goes by himself. What could go wrong? Bad things happen to him, yeah. And Jennings pops in to say that he found the satellite and has control of it remotely. Information you'll need for later. Well, the labyrinth of the corridors I'm going to kind of summarize less from this point on.
Okay.
Basically, it's kind of a little bit of a whodunit, who's infested currently. There's a demon that is being passed from person to person and gradually gets the crew. There's paranoia sets in with the survivors, and it's good. I liked it. I don't, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's not a great movie. But and yet I don't know.
You like it?
There's some greatness, yeah. There's a connection between there's a triangle on the dark side of the moon that connects. It makes a corridor with the Bermuda Triangle on Earth. Triangle-shaped thing keeps recurring, and the number 666 that the demon refers to. And there have been 665 disappeared ships. They're number 666. Ooh. So the demon has a plan, and this is going to finalize his power. And
okay.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to leave the summary. Yeah.
I do like it also.
And you should read my commentary.
Oh. All right. Well, Kevin says, this is one of Kevin's favorite movies for some reason that he still can't quite put his finger on. It's not really a great movie, and yet he likes it. The acting is solid, the script is decent, the special effects aren't that elaborate, but are effective and still hold up pretty well 30 years later. We get to know about the characters enough to care about them. The AI Leslie being in a robot body is pretty cool, although realistically unnecessary and a waste of space on the ship. Plus, she's got this physical body, but she doesn't move. She's not really a robot.
No, she just sits
just
in the
a
chair.
face.
She can turn and move her head.
Yeah. The devil demon thing, when he gives us a peek, is very effective. And there are some real creepy moments, some tension and suspense, an interesting mix of horror and science fiction. Yeah, I like it too. It's one of those ones you don't want to think about too much.
Yeah, don't think about how big that shuttle is.
Don't think about a triangle on the Bermuda Triangle and a triangle on the dark side of the moon, which is kind of in the back.
Which is the far side of the moon. Yeah, that was a
Meaning
mistake.
there's a triangle on the front side of the moon, too, right? Because it's like a tube?
That's not how they show it. They showed the little graphic on the screen, and the triangle on the moon and the triangle and the Bermuda Triangle connecting, and they're in that corridor, that triangle-shaped corridor. Except
I think when
the
they
dark
got
side is the far side.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
I think when they got together to make this, they said, let's do Alien. Alien's been done. Let's do Alien with
a demon
demons.
instead.
Because it's the dark, moody atmosphere of Alien. It's got the same kind of computer oracle kind of thing as Alien. It bursts out of their chest like Alien. Who's got it in them? Like Alien? Mm-hmm. And at the end, there's even a blow it out the airlock scene, like in Alien.
Huh.
Only this one isn't an alien, it's a demon. So it's not the same thing at all.
Totally not.
But really, it's pretty good. I like it too. You should watch it.
And that's actually a fallacy. I don't know if everybody knows that. The dark side of the moon has been a expression for so long. The moon is tidally locked, so the same face is always facing Earth, and the dark side of the moon is the far side.
It's not dark on the other side.
It's not dark. Yeah, it gets just as much light as the side of the moon that faces us.
Yep.
It's just, the far side of the moon is more accurate.
Yeah.
But it's romantic and scary to
Sounds
think of it
scary.
as the dark side of the moon. Yeah. It's
All
dark
right.
sometimes.
Sometimes, every 24 hours or so.
The side that faces us is dark sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's our show for this week. Stop in at horrorguys.com and check out our written reviews on all this stuff and the things we're going to watch next week. And
what are we
going to watch next week?
Well, we're going to watch Zombi, the Italian movie, which may be spelled with an I or spelled with an IE.
Yeah.
It's also known as Zombie 2 and also known as Zombie Flesh Eaters.
I get the feeling they weren't quite sure what to call this.
Well, it was first the Italian, and then they tried to remarket it in Italy, I think, in Europe, and then there's the American release, I think, is the
great part is
Flesh
Zombie
Eaters.
2, and there was no Zombie 1.
There was no Zombie 1. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's from 1979, considered kind of a classic, actually.
Oh,
yeah. And then we'll watch Psycho Goreman, a new movie.
Sounds exciting.
And a new one called Fried Berry. And Caveat. And those are all from 2021, those last three.
Nice. So 3 new movies and an old classic. All right. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.